Hey everybody, and welcome to another Empower instructional video. Today I want to go over kind of the ins and outs of creating an activity. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is here's our instructional homepage. Okay, now we've got to make sure that we have the class. All right, now for right now, because school hasn't started, you can only see these couple things that I've done. Alright, so I'm going to stay in my tutorial videos class, but you'll see all of your classes populated by the district. And I'll show you what that looks like here real quick just to reiterate. If I change the date magically to the 27th, when we do have kids, see now all of a sudden I have these classes and these groups, okay? But for the purpose of go ahead and creating some different things, this is where I'm going to stay. All right, now I'm going to change my date back to today so that I don't forget. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this Create Activity button, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and give it a title, and the title is going to be how to create, let's shorten it, activity creation. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and give it a unique image, okay? And the way that I did that, sorry, I have my activity. I clicked on this guy that says change preview image. Sorry, I'm in hyper mode here. So I'm going to browse and I'm going to give it a unique image. Now you probably want to give it an image that's tied to the actual activity that you're doing. So that's probably what you're going to want to do, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this one because, you know, it's fun. All right, and you can drag your tool here and kind of crop it to whatever you want and then click finished. Alright, so now this activity creation, I've got this yelling, screaming young lady there. Okay, so then what we're going to do is for our description, this is where you're going to kind of set up and talk about your learning targets. So in this activity, we are learning to create an activity. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to come down here and I'm going to add a target. Okay, this is the target browser, so you know I'm doing my visual arts, and I'm in high school, and let's just do creating, okay, because we're creating an activity. All right, so say creation 1, and I can hover over this little I that'll tell me what I'm doing. Generate and conceptualize artistic ideas and work. We'll just say that that's the same. And what we're doing, I'm going to save and close. Okay, so now I have a target. All right. Now you'll notice here I can change my maximum achievable score. Okay, so for this particular one, my MAS is 2 because I'm going to be able to create an activity, but not necessarily master activity creation for the purposes of applying it in a new and unique way. So for right now, the only thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, I can at least create an activity. I'll get more creative with it later. That's when I'll be showing my 4. Okay. So for my resources here, I'm going to upload anything that I might need for my action plan. But what I end up doing is I usually bounce back and forth because I don't always know which resources I'm going to need. Sometimes I do. For instance, if I want to have, if I know that I want to link a rubric, then what I'll do is I will put in here, let's see, art rubric, and let's just search my drive here. I know I have something that'll come up. Yeah, there we go. And I'll click this check mark, and that'll add it from my drive right there. Okay, and then if I want to change this so that every student can either do this. Students can view the file, students can edit the file, or you're going to make a copy for each student. Now for this instance, if I was sending them a rubric, I would make a copy for each student so that they can edit directly on their own rubric and then send it back to me for a self-evaluation, which is something that I oftentimes have them do. Okay, so but once you put this resource in here, nothing happens until you tell it what to do. Okay, so what you have to do is now you have to come to this action plan. Okay, and this is where you're going to add your steps. Okay, so here's this box here. You click in there. You can start typing what your step is. Okay, so step 1 um, let's see, figure out what your activity needs to be. Okay. Now, when you want to add it, you can either hit this add or add completion step. Okay. Now, if you just add it, it comes down here. Step 1, figure out what your activity needs to be. Great, got it. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to do is, let's see, familiarize yourself with the rubric. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this completion step this time. Okay. It says this activity requires a self-quiz. When confident in your ability to apply this learning, click the complete button. If not, revisit the previous step or click the help button to alert your teacher of your need. Okay. And then I'm going to add this one. Okay. So this completion, and the reason why I did it there is because I'll show you that you can move stuff around. All right. So I've added this third thing, familiarize yourself with the rubric. Okay. So art design grading rubric. All right. Now I'm going to take that and I'm going to pull it down here. Now I've linked it to this number 3. It says familiarize yourself with the rubric, right? And then now I have the rubric there. Okay, great. Now this self-quiz, this completion step, okay, this should actually be at the end. And the reason why I did it in the middle is to show you that if you ever need to reorder these, you can. So I'm going to reorder it. So what it does is it says, you know, this is kind of that completion, and I'll show you what it looks like on the student side here in a second, because I've created myself a student account for testing things out. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, so this is pretty much the basics of creating an activity, all right? And we can get more in depth and look at some other things here in a bit, but if I am happy with that, okay, then what I'm going to go ahead and do is I am going to just hit my X, and it is automatically going to populate that for students. All right. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to come in here to this button and I want to check it to make sure that these are checked. Okay, this is my assign, so I know that I've assigned it to my students. Okay, so if I hit this check mark, if they're not checked, all you do is come in here and check it for the students. Now the great thing about that is individualized instruction. If I only want to give this assignment to one of my students, I give it to one of my students. If maybe only half of my students need this assignment, I give it to only half my students. And then there isn't a whole bunch of missing work or zeros in the evidence record, because I've only assigned it to the students who are actually working on it, who actually need it. Now, with the way that my class is set up, I often have students where I have 1 or 2 students working on a thing, 2 or 3 over here, 2 or 3 over there, 3 or 4. And so if I were to assign this to every single student every single time, their whole inbox would just be flooded with things. Okay, so that's what I love about this. All right, so I check that. I make sure I only assign it to the kids who I want to have it. All right, and I hit my X. Okay, so now I'm going to switch over and I'm going to show you what they are going to see. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and switch my account to my student account here. Okay, and then in my learning. So this is what's going to come up. Okay, now you'll see I have this in my class log because of a previous video, but what I want to do is I want to click this plus. Okay, all right, so now I have to scroll down in my class activities to get to the next activity creation. Okay, so that was my last viewed is over here, and then they'll see their class activities, their next targeted look for, things like that. Okay, click on my activity creation. This is what they're going to see. Okay, in this activity, we're learning to create an activity. They're going to see this is the target. Okay, this is the goal score. All right, that's the maximum achievable score. All right, they're going to go to the action. They're going to have their action tabs. All right, so step 1, figure out what your activity needs to be. All right, great. I figured it out. Step 2, familiarize yourself with the rubric. I can click on the rubric. Okay. Now it's going to require me to log in to see that. And just because I haven't logged in, what are you doing? Okay, I'm having a hard time here. You know, and it might actually have something to do with the fact that I did this weird end around. But anyway, um, I should be able to look at this. Oh, maybe it was just, maybe it had a brain fart. There you go. Okay, it just had a brain fart. All right, so it created my copy in my locker. Now I can look at that. All right, so now I have my rubric and it's my copy. See, it says Lucas Allison there. It's my copy. So now I can go through and I can, so okay, well, you know, I think I got a 3 here. Looks like I got a 2 on this column. Looks like I got a 3 on this column, so on and so forth. Okay, now again, you know, you're probably going to be using single point rubrics and things like that. This was just the first old version of a rubric that popped up for me. So, all right, so that's in my locker. Now, if I want to turn that in, I'm ready as a student, then I'm going to click that check mark. Okay. Now, the reason why I'm going over this is what it looks like on the student side is because you're going to have students that go, Mr. Allison, I don't understand. And if you haven't seen the student side, you're not going to understand either. Okay. And then also they're going to be able to give you feedback. Okay. So they've done their action. I'm checking that I've completed that. All right. And then I'm not going to leave feedback right now because it wasn't really asked of me in my actions. Okay, so now I've completed that, and we're going to go ahead and switch back to my teacher account. All right, and now you can see I've got a new one in my scoring inbox, and there it is. And so here is what was just turned in that activity creation. Okay, so this is the video on activity creation. There's another video about using the scoring inbox and using messaging. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to drop by and give me a chat.